Good morning, Garland Nixon here with my dear friend, the brilliant journalist Laith Marouf, who is live in Beirut, Lebanon, and he's going to let us know what's going on in the region and the important stories for today. Let's talk. Yes, somebody said you're stealing Dima's line over there at the Military Summary Channel. Yes, my dear friends, I am. At any rate, let's start off with Laith Marouf. Before we get going, there's a lot of big stories, a lot of stuff we got to talk about. Laith is right in the heart of the situation. But Laith, you got a website where people can go. You're doing some good work there, where people can donate to support you. Let everyone know where your website is.
Yes, it's freepalestine.video. We're doing training work for youth and students here in Lebanon in the different universities for them to produce content in English that can inform the audience around the world of what's happening, what's their hopes, and what's happening on the ground here in Lebanon. Please donate. freepalestine.video is the website.
freepalestine.video, everyone. All right, let's start here. Israel, they just seem to me out of control. Now, I've used this metaphor before, and because my background in boating and stuff like that, it always seems appropriate. Like a man who's drowning, who falls in the water and just reaches in every direction to grab, hold on, pull on anything. The person doesn't have a plan. They don't know what to do, but they're in complete and total desperation, and they're reaching in all directions. That's the way Israel and the U.S. empire strikes me. They don't. People are like, well, they have a plan, and it's a brilliant strategic plan. I don't think they do. I don't think they know what to do. But at any rate, so let's start Syria. Israel recently has increased its bombing and missile attacks on Syria. What's going on with that?
Yeah, it's almost on a daily basis this week that they attacked Syria. I was in Syria for the last 5 days, visiting family, doing some paperwork, but also visited some of the sites that got attacked. Yesterday, there was an attack in Kafr, which is like a suburb of Damascus, where at least 6 civilians were killed. When I was there was an attack on Mezza neighborhood. This is the neighborhood that has all the embassies in Damascus. In fact, 2 buildings that are on both sides of the South African embassy in Damascus were leveled to the ground. 40 somewhat civilians killed. There's no military targets. There's no Iranian officials or visiting military officials there. And so it seemed like it was a purposeful targeting of the South African embassy. Some of the debris fell on the embassy. So it's because of South Africa's position at the International Court of Justice, trying to bring Israel to and its crimes to be held responsible for that. So what we see is that the Israelis are trying to instigate some action and reaction from Syria. Of course, Syria has been living 12 years of attacks by the West, an occupation of a third of its territory by the United States and its lackeys, and looting of its resources, its oil, its gas, its wheat. And up until now, we haven't seen any responses from the Syrian military because of that. Also, yesterday, during the attack, the Israeli attack on the coastal areas of Syria, for the first time, we saw the Russians activate their air defenses and take down some of the Israeli missiles that were trying to hit Syria. So now we're seeing a change, a little change in the Russian position there. And now, of course, this comes at the same time that Israel is bombing daily Lebanon. and of course, continuing to genocide the population in Gaza.
Wow. You're and it seems like the Israelis are also increasing the attacks on Lebanon. They've gone further into Lebanon. They seem to be strictly hitting civilian targets in the same way that they're doing in Gaza. It seems to me that the Israelis are intentionally everywhere focusing on civilian targets. It's a war of terrorism and illegal and criminality. Talk about what's happening with Israel and Lebanon.
Yeah, I mean, I went today to visit the location they hit just around Saida city. It's a village called Al Ghaziya in the south of Lebanon that is close to 30 kilometers away from the border. The locations they hit is a factory that makes electric generators, diesel generators that produce electricity. Here in Lebanon, we have a big problem with the electricity grid. We don't have enough electricity, so practically every building has a generator that runs on diesel that provides electricity to the building. And many generators in the neighborhood usually are selling the electricity to the buildings. This company is called Al Ghaddar Generators. It's one of the most famous in Lebanon. It's been in existence for decades. It even sells its generators to Syria, which is now also suffering for the same problem of lack of electricity. So the Israelis claim that they targeted a Hezbollah missile site, but it's clear what is the location. We went there. Much of the media went and filmed it. Generators, oil, and for the generators, all these chemicals and diesel in the factory that got blown up, and it's very close to the main highway on the coast. So people driving on the highway that day had debris fall on them as they're driving on the main highway. So this was an intentional attack on a civilian infrastructure to threaten people, and also to make it even harder for people in Lebanon to have electricity. And I think Hezbollah has been retaliating in kind. They've hit last night a factory in the north of occupied Palestine, an industrial zone in Kiryat Shmona, and what it was the finger of the Galilee, the panhandle in the north of Palestine. So Hezbollah is saying that they will retaliate in kind, an eye for an eye. Yesterday also they targeted many civilian homes in the south villages on the border, killing a mother and her child, a 2-year-old child and her mother. And for sure, Hezbollah is going to retaliate in kind. And now much of North Palestine has been evacuated from the colonists. The Minister of Housing here in Lebanon said that at least 1,000 homes have been damaged in the south of Lebanon, and many more that they haven't fully did the counting, because even the civil rescue teams, firefighters and so on, get scared of going down to the South Lebanon villages because they have been targeted previously.
Wow. What is the state of the conflict overall between, how would you, if someone was to ask you, is it spreading? How much is it spreading? How quickly is it spreading? What would your evaluation be of the spread of the conflict?
Well, we are definitely at the highest intensity yet. So in the past week, Hezbollah has been increasing the payload of the missiles that they're using and the number of attacks. They are also using multiple drones. Today, much of North Palestine had all these sirens in the colonies, and the Israeli military said that There was, at least 4 or 5 different drones flying at the same time from Hezbollah that eventually reached their targets. We look at what the Israelis are doing in terms of how they're hitting further and further inside Lebanon and targeting these civilian infrastructures that are crucial for the continuation of life in the south of Lebanon. That shows us that we are at the edge of a complete opening of this front with Lebanon. And this coincides, of course, with what's happening in Gaza, having Rafah being the last refuge for the Palestinians, and the lack of food and water in the north of Gaza since the World Food Program stopped its deliveries to the north of Gaza because their shipments, their convoys kept on being attacked by Israeli military, and the civilians that were coming to pick up aid from those trucks were being targeted by Israeli, again, assassins. This made it impossible for the World Food Program to continue their deliveries of food in the north of Gaza. So now we're reaching the edge of possible mass starvation, mass death because of starvation in the north of Gaza, as well as mass deaths that could happen if the Israelis actually attack Rafah. And believe me, the resistance here in Lebanon, Hezbollah, will not allow either of those to happen. So we're, seeing that the axis of resistance is being kind of pushed into this mass confrontation, regional war, and we're just now, all of us, holding on to our seats. The next 48 hours are very crucial for us to know what's going to happen.
What about the Yemen Red Sea? What do we know about what's going on there?
I mean, I was just watching just before we started this speech by Sayyid Abdul Malik al-Houthi, the head of Ansarullah, and he was speaking, of course, about the situation inside Gaza and how that relates to Yemen's intentions. And he quoted the Quran, and he quoted multiple sayings by Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, about how it is a duty of Muslims to come to the aid of other Muslims. That you are not a Muslim if you hear the cries of another Muslim being oppressed in a foreign land, and you don't come to their aid. And that was signals to, of course, the Arab and Muslim states that are not fulfilling their duty and standing in solidarity and support with the Palestinian people. Over the last 48 hours, there's at least 6 different Israeli, American, and British ships that were hit. We watched a video on American television where the Central Command of the American Navy, they're based in Bahrain, where they brought in journalists and they showed them the attacks by the Yemenis on the merchant ships. And according to the general that was being interviewed, as I said before to you, but now it's confirmed by these American generals, this is the first time in history that somebody uses ballistic missiles to hit moving naval targets successfully in a war zone. And according to these generals, also to these American generals, this is now the largest naval battle that the American Navy has been engaged in since World War II. So that shows us how impressive the actions of the Yemenis are, and how serious this situation is. And so now we know that all of the American Navy and the British Navy that are in the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea have not been successful in protecting these Israeli, American, and British ships, and have failed in their job. And now they've called on the European vessels that they have to also send their navies. So we are now hearing that 27 EU countries are gonna send all their navies to support the Americans and the British in the Arabian and Red Sea. I mean, what glory it is for Yemen to face all the navies of the West at once. I mean, we haven't seen anybody have to do that ever, and so this is amazing. Now we also saw that the Yemenis captured the most advanced American undersea drone, captured it in complete full, and this is a drone that submarine that cost something like $100 million, captured now by Ansarullah, and of course they're going to reverse engineer it. They're going to hand it over to Iran. They're going to hand it over to Russia, and everybody's going to get the full details of this. But can you imagine? We've been told that this is a backward country. They have shot down an MQ-9, 3 of them now, MQ-9 American drones. These are the most expensive flying drones that the United States has. They've now captured the most expensive underwater drone that the United States has, and they've been chasing away the American Navy and British Navy. This is a glorious day for Yemen, a glorious day for all people, requesting sovereignty and independence from the West.
What are your thoughts on the current state of affairs regarding the countries that the leadership, as you said, you said, aren't standing up for their duty to Palestine? What my understanding is that the people, I recently saw a poll that said 98% of the people in Saudi Arabia, support the Palestinian cause, etc. And it seems to me that the leaders of these various countries, Saudi, UAE, etc., are in a tight spot. What are your thoughts on the current state of affairs as far as the friction between the leaders of these countries and the people in the countries who are aligned with the Palestinian cause?
Yesterday there was the International Court of Justice hearings about the occupation, illegality of the occupation that the Israelis have of the West Bank and Gaza. And the Saudis actually presented. I was surprised. The legal team on behalf of Saudi Arabia presented, saying that the occupation is illegal, that is the cause of all the problems in the region, that the United Nations, the International Court of Justice, should find Israel guilty of the crimes that it's committing, the expansion of settlements. This is language that is, the Saudi government wouldn't have used if it's not under public pressure within its own country, because they usually don't care about anybody. But now, we can see how dangerous it is for the Saudi regime. That the Abraham Accords, the normalization have actually put them in a really bad position with their own populations. So we see a shift. It's probably just talk, but at least it is, we hear this different language. The convoys of supplies coming through the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan still continue. So we see talk and action is different. At the same time, we see that the Saudis have refused to participate in the American-British attacks on Yemen and or in shooting down Yemeni missiles or drones. So that tells you again that they are under a lot of pressure from their own populace. In Jordan, it's been now weeks of daily protests in the Jordan Valley, where civilians are trying to stop those trucks from crossing into occupied Palestine. There's campaigns against vegetable exports from Jordan to the Zionist colony. There was even today demonstrations at the Jordan Valley Authority offices in Amman, the capital of Jordan. People coming in and demanding that the authorities end the export of vegetables from the Jordan Valley. And now we're hearing that there's going to be a demonstration of truck drivers that may block all the roads down to the Jordan Valley to stop the convoys coming from the Emirates to the Zionist colony. So this is like kind of an overview, and you could tell that in all those countries, the populace is boiling, and if a regional war breaks out with Lebanon, I don't know who's going to be able to hold people back in Jordan, for instance.
I tend to think that if a regional war were to break out, that there would be severe disruption as far as oil, gas, energy coming out of the Middle East. That I would think that would probably be one of the strategies of the people who are involved in the conflict, would be to starve the West of its energy. What do you think the odds of that are?
If a regional war breaks out, definitely that would be one of those targets. And we are right now looking at the oil prices already going up. There's predictions that it will reach $100 a barrel. The futures already are registering at that. So it's very likely, especially as we see right now the United States vetoing ceasefire resolution that happened at the Security Council. And I think, there's something that I saw yesterday, I couldn't believe it, but I was predicting these things. Yesterday at the UK, there was a vote in the parliament for a ceasefire. The resolution was brought in by the Scottish Nationalist Party, and the Speaker of the House broke the decorum, broke the rules of Robert rules that run the vote, and allowed the Labour Party to put in their own resolution and kick out the SNP resolution. Now, this is a breach of the rules in the Parliament of the UK. Also, they can bring in this watered down resolution. And now we have the Scottish nationalists, the Scottish separatists really pissed off, because now it's clear that democracy has been thrown out, that they have no voice as Scottish people in this Parliament, that the authorities, including this Speaker of the House, the Speaker of the Parliament in the UK, are willing to abuse power, and there's no rules anymore for people to follow in this Parliament. And I say this is an indicator of what's going to come next in much of the Western countries. All the theatrics of democracy that we're used to, and the rules that were written and shown to people, Robert rules, what have you, of how you run parliamentary proceedings, are going to be thrown out. In fact, as we get closer and closer to the election date in the United States, people should now think about, are they even going to have a right to vote that day? Is their vote going to count? How are the delegates going to send their votes finally at the end of this election in November? So I see a total collapse. Already we saw a collapse of quote-unquote freedom of speech, media rights, rights of assembly, and now we're going to see a total collapse of the theatrics of democracy in the West, all to protect the Zionist colony. And so Canadians, Americans, Brits, if they really want to save their own country, if they want to save their rights that they have, they need to move now before it's too late and they find themselves living in total dictatorships.
Yeah, I felt that we've had nothing but the illusion of democracy here anyway, because, if I present to you, as an example, Obama and John McCain, you have the illusion that there's something different. But in reality, Obama still invades, starts wars in 6 or 7 countries. So I felt all along that what they do is they make sure that when we get to the last two people, when you finally have the chance to vote, that there's nothing to vote for. So you have that illusion, as they say, heads I win, tails you lose. Right? That's the way the ruling elite does it here. And so, yeah, but as you said, we're getting to a point where they can't even afford that much of an illusion. They can't even afford a basic illusion of democracy. Iraq and the resistance forces there. What's going on with the resistance forces? What do we need to know about Iraq?
Yeah, in Iraq it has calmed down a little bit, but we see still attacks on American positions inside Syria. So I think since the initial response attacks by the United States on Iraqi National Army and the National Guard of Iraq, the Popular Mobilization Units, the conversation that happened within the structures of power in Iraq, there was a consensus to move the battle to Syria and keep the Iraqi battlefield for now calm. And so we haven't seen the United States attack Iraqi positions since then, but on a daily basis, there's attacks on American positions in Syria, in the occupied oil fields. The Conoco oil facilities were attacked yesterday, multiple drones and missiles. There's also, by the way, now a running battles on the ground in Deir ez-Zor between the Arab tribes and the Kurdish Contras that the United States protects, multiple villages that kind of got ethnically cleansed by the Kurdish militias over the last week on the coast, northern coast of the Euphrates. And so, I don't know if we look at it on a from a wider angle, we can see now that the Israelis, the Americans, the Iraqis, and Hezbollah even have agreed that Syria is going to be a battlefield, and Iraq is going to be kind of put on the side for now from this as skirmishes. I wonder how long the Syrian military will be able to stay neutral in such a situation, especially if the war opens up in Lebanon. But yeah, Iraq for now is being kind of everybody's being calmed down there, including the Americans.
The other question I had to ask, you mentioned the Kurds. In that region, it has been my evaluation of Kurds that, and having spoken with some people in the U.S. that advocate for the Kurds, that this is my interpretation, really. And I told them this. You want your own homeland. Sure, everybody wants their own homeland, but you're willing to collaborate with the empire, right? That the Kurds collaborate with the empire is a Faustian deal. So in the end, if you make a deal with the devil, even if you get your own homeland, ask Germany how it's working out, having your own homeland when you make a deal with the U.S. empire. You don't have a land, you don't have a homeland, you don't have anything, right? I tend to feel, and you can let me know, you can go wherever you want with this, that if there was a regional war started to break out, it wouldn't work out well for the Kurds because of their decades of collaboration with the U.S. empire, that they would be viewed as an appendage of the empire, and that there's a strong possibility that the Kurds could get really slammed and torn to pieces by because they'd be viewed as soldiers of the empire. Anyway, your thoughts on all of that later.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think much of your viewers know that Erbil, which is the supposed capital of Kurdish presence in Iraq was built by the Assyrian people. These are Semitic people that are still living in Iraq and Syria and South Turkey, what is now Turkey. They're Semitic. They're basically Arabs, just with a different accent. They were ethnically cleansed from Erbil for it to become the capital of Kurdistan. Similarly with Kirkuk. So look, Kurdish people, their homeland is the Kurdistan mountain range, which is in Iran and Turkey. It is not in Iraq. It is not in Syria. It is only because the Kurds participated in the genocide of Armenians, Assyrians, Arabs, and Greeks at the auspices of the Ottomans that they are where they are now. They were promised if they ethnically cleanse these lands on behalf of the Ottomans, that they will be able to steal those lands and colonize them. And of course, at the end of their participation in the Armenian-Assyrian genocide, the Turks turned on them and began killing them. And much of them ran away to Syria and Iraq, and Arabs and Assyrians opened their homes to them and protected them. Today, to have Kurdish people wanting to create a Kurdish ethnic state in the lands of Iraq and Syria is like the Zionists running away from the Holocaust, Palestinians opening their homes to them, and then the Zionists turning around and kicking the Palestinians out and want to create a Jewish state on the ruins of Palestine. You know, creating a Kurdish state in Iraq or Syria is will be another Israel. I am all for Kurds having their own state as long as it's in their own homeland in the Kurdistan mountain range, not in any land in Syria, not in any land in Iraq. But then again, you know, it's now they are in Iraq and Syria, and they should be they should have equal rights to the rest of the population there, and that's what they have. And they should be content with equality. They shouldn't be wanting privilege over the indigenous Assyrian and Arabs of the region. You know, so this is where the main problem with ethnic nationalism, this disease that the West exported on all of us. You know, we wouldn't be even talking about this if the region hasn't been cut up into these ethnic states that the West made after World War I. You know, Arabs love our Kurdish brothers and sisters. Many rulers of the Arabic world were Kurdish, including Salah ad-Din, the liberator of Palestine that kicked out the Crusaders. Nobody ever thought of him as something less than an Arab. But when somebody says to you, I am going to take your land and I'm going to create an exclusivist state on it, that's when the troubles start. Kurdish people should live with their brothers and sisters in the region, and that will solve all that problem.
Your thoughts on and I think the U.S. has been, we now see with what's happening in the Red Sea, why they had so much of a focus on the Horn of Africa, Somalia, Sudan, very, very important critical areas. Your thoughts on what's going on there and how this fits into the puzzle?
Oh yes, Somalia, of course, was one of the countries that suffered first at the end of the collapse of the Soviet Union. We remember the American invasion of Somalia in 1990, and
the whole Black Hawk Down, or the movie and all that crap.
Yeah, and you know, they broke it up into regions of influence that kind of follow the borders of the Italian and British occupation of that land. We have Somaliland fiefdom that is trying to break off from Somalia and kind of block it from its sea access on the Arabian Sea. We heard yesterday that the president of Somalia said that they will be receiving support from the Turkish Navy against the secessionist Somaliland. Somaliland now said that they signed a treaty with Ethiopia to give Ethiopia a naval base. Remember, Ethiopia doesn't have any water access, so it would be weird to have Ethiopia have a naval base in Somaliland. But that shows you how much the United States and its Western puppets are trying to create infighting in this important region. Somalia has a lot of fisheries, has millions of cattle. It should be a very rich country, and it has beautiful beaches and port cities that must and should be one of the more important points of trade in this world. And that's not happening because of colonialism, because of the interference by the West. Sudan similarly is living right now a horrible situation, a quote-unquote civil war. I wouldn't call it civil war because both parties are vassals to foreign powers. The Emiratis, the Qataris, the Saudis, the Americans, the Germans, the Turks, they're all intervening, and the Israelis supplying both sides with weapons, while they are the looting of Sudani gold and Sudani oil continues. By the way, Sudan has some of the biggest gold reserves in Africa. I mean, there's tons, and I'm talking about thousands of tons of gold are smuggled out of Sudan on a yearly basis. And this wouldn't happen if there's an actual state that is in control of its natural resources. Millions of Sudanese right now are displaced, again, all because of this foreign interference in the country. The massacre. This is what the West wants. The West wants to have every country that has resources to be in chaos, to be depopulated, so the extraction of resources can happen at the cheapest possible outcome.
Wow. And let me get your thoughts on right now. From your and I understand that we have our thoughts on it over here, the Europeans, but from your vantage point on the Ukraine conflict.
Yeah, Ukraine at this moment maybe took a backseat because of the slaughter in Gaza, and of course because the West now directed all its weapon supplies to support the Zionist colony. Up until now, at least 5 Hiroshima worth of bombs were dropped on Gaza. It's more in 4 months. The 8 times what the United States dropped on Iraq over a war of 4 or 5 years were dropped in those 4 months over Gaza. And so you can imagine how the stockpiles that the United States had over the whole region or in Eastern and Europe have all been funneled to Israel. So now we see on the front lines in Ukraine how that's translating, and the advancements that the Russians are making, much faster than before, and the continuation of dead, rising numbers of Ukrainian dead soldiers. I want to note one thing about Ukraine that everybody that is watching us must understand. Stalin, after World War II, uh, decided to build the most advanced fortifications around all the Ukrainian cities, so that never again would the Nazis or an invasion from Europe would be able to roll through Ukraine easily to reach Russia. And what does this mean? That means actually every Ukrainian city has tunnels under it, has barracks, has fortification after fortification, first line, second line, third line inside the cities. So people wonder, why is it taking so long for Russia to take these cities? Well, this is why, because Stalin built the most advanced fortifications within these cities ever, and I think the Russians have been managing well under these conditions, and we will see as the weapons dry up from the West, especially if a bigger engagement of a regional war happens here in West Asia, we will see a faster takeover by the Russian forces.
It seems to me that the empire is in a rapid decline, in precipitous decline, and they went into Ukraine. We're going to go head to toe with Russia on Russia's border, and that was never a good idea. Nobody, historically, the history tells us that if you come to the Russian border, they're going to fight until you're gone, which is what warriors. People don't use the term. They may use the term of with Yemen as they're great warriors, but if you look at the history of the Russians, they're great warriors. When they need to fight, they are not afraid of a fight, and they will not shy away from it. I think they understand the importance of protecting their border. The empire went to toe with the Russians, and which they were never going to win. They're running out of armaments there. And now they've got Israel. They're running out of armaments there. These idiots. The other day I saw that the U.S. has sent 5 carrier groups to the Pacific for no other reason than to just a show of, these lunatics are always, we've got a show of strength in the Pacific. It seems to me that rather than a show of strength, it's a show of weakness. It's a show that they're overstretched. They don't know what to do. And to me, it seems just a matter of time before, I'll put it like this. If there was a regional conflict in the Middle East, I think the empire would rapidly run out of military stuff. And then on all fronts, they're collapsed, including at home, because they wouldn't have any oil. Anyway, your thoughts on imperial overstretch?
Yeah, I mean, look, anybody that reads history wouldn't have tried to have a war with Yemen. Anybody that reads history wouldn't have done what they did with Russia. Except, and only except, if you really think that you are chosen people. And I think, this mentality that we talk about in the Zionist entity is also within the elite in the West. They really think that they have surpassed time and history and space, and they are the epitome of human development and mental faculty, and that they can force the hand of God, so this is where I think the main problem that the Western elite are having in terms of their ability to draw up strategies for the movement forward of their societies. Their arrogance, their supremacy is so set in that even when they read a history book that tells you Sana'a has never been occupied by a foreign military, they say, I can do it. Or, every invading army that walked into Russia got stuck in the snow and died off. They think that they can do it. And so this is a problem. And I think, the populations in the West, I want to make sure all of our listeners understand this. There's nothing better about Arabic people or Russian people or Black people, African or Latin Americans than Europeans or Americans. We're all humans, equal. We all have our problems. Our religions, our societies have different problems. Nobody's perfect. Okay, so this is not an attack on a culture or a society, but the elite in the West must be reined in by their own people if they want to save their countries. If they don't want to see a collapse like a collapse of Rome, because right now, American president and the possible contender to him, Trump, or the elite in the UK, are all acting like Nero. They are burning down Rome with them in their lunacy. And it is, none of us here around the world would like to see this mass suicide happen in the West. We want just our freedom. We want to be left alone to develop our own societies, but we will not be happy to see, Rome burning. And definitely we will not be happy to see civil wars breaking out in these countries, or mass deaths or starvations, collapses of economy. This affects us all. We're all human. We all cry for people in Gaza. We cry for the people in Somalia, in Sudan, in Congo. And we will cry for the people in the United States and other capitals if they, these things befall them. So it is imperative, as we get closer and closer to elections in these countries, that the societies, the citizens of those countries rise up to, hopefully, stave off the collapse. And because it's just going to be dangerous for all of us.
When I look at Israel now, I think to myself, they're done. They're done. It's like you watch a lunatic, running running off a cliff, and they're joyous and they're celebrating. Hooray! Good things are about to happen. And they're running right towards a cliff. And you say, you're about to run off a cliff. And they say, how dare you say such a crazy thing? I'm running towards, joy and wonder, etc. As I look at Israel, the world looks at them and says, these people are madmen. The world looks at them and says, these people are lunatics. And likewise, the people start looking at the ruling elite in the West and looking at Israel and say, we can all see that these people are lunatics. You are lunatics too. I think the Zionist project is now doomed and has condemned itself. That, let's just say, for the sake, nothing lasts forever. People were talking about the Ukraine war. I said nothing lasts forever. World War II didn't last, but nothing lasts forever. The time will come when the U.S. and Israel can no longer do whatever it is they want to do there. Who's going to do business with Israel? Who's going to go there? Like 40%, I think, or 30% of their income was tourism. A lot of people went there to see holy sites, various things, whatever. Who's going to visit Israel? Who's going to buy stuff from them? Who's going to want to do business with them? They will be the pariah worldwide. The only thing they will have left is the U.S. empire. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to Germany and the U.K., but if you are under the thumb of the U.S. empire, things are not going to work out good for you. And everyone around them will be looking at them with fury and anger. I don't see how the Israel comes out of this thing being any kind of a viable state, economically, militarily, all of the above. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the economical predictions already are coming out for what's happening in Israel. We already know that they lost something like 23% of their economy in the last quarter of 2023. So that's between October and December. So since then, they probably dropped another 20% of their economy. So it's collapsed. The economy is done. There's no flights. Nobody's coming in on flights into Israel. In fact, like on a daily basis, something like 60,000 Israelis are leaving on a daily basis. The number is almost 2 million now, if not more, of Israelis that left on one-way tickets. Because they called in all their reserves, to the front lines. That's something like 250, 300,000 reserves. There's nobody working in the factories. The trades deficit is humongous. Nobody wants to buy Israeli products. We see Japanese, Chinese companies, even Japanese companies, by the way, that are military manufacturers, have cut their ties with Israeli military manufacturers. This is the first of Western, quote, even Japan, we consider it, of course, a vessel of the United States, military manufacturers that are now stopping deliveries to Israel. Similarly, in Spain, that happened. So what is left of the Israeli economy? Is zero. It's costing them almost $500 million a day to maintain this war, and now their debt is $100-something billion. There's no way they can pay their debt back, even if they're back to their full capacity. It is already written that the Zionist colony is finished. Question is, how much of the region are they going to take with them? How much are the West going to sacrifice of themselves to maintain it before it collapses? As we see, the Western elite are really crazy right now. Yesterday, there was a congressman from Tennessee that an American citizen was walking with them in the hallways of the Congress and was asking them about Palestinian children dying and so on. And the congressman said that he wants all the Palestinian children dead. He wants them all killed. I mean, you have now elected members of Congress calling for the complete genocide of Palestinians, and specifically Palestinian children. So this is a moment of lunacy. Again, we're back to that Nero situation. I hope, obviously, that the populace in the United States would rise up and change those realities. I don't know if that's going to happen as we get, but my predictions is that in the next week, we may see ourselves in a major war between Lebanon and the Zionist colony, and the European navies will be engaged with Yemen, and this stage of the war will go on for the next 4 to 5 months, as we get closer to the American election, the possibility of a direct war between the United States and Iran will, become even more possible. And so, because it is in the interest of Netanyahu that this breaks out into a regional conflagration, and that we arrive at the American election with an open war. It is also in the interest, actually, of the axis of resistance that this happens to, because if an American election is happening while this major war is happening, then definitely the freedom of Palestine will be the only question on the ballot. But really, what choices do American public have on this ballot? a 99% fascist or 100% fascist? I mean, what is
Right.
what is
A
it?
flavor of fashion. It says, I always say, what flavor of fascism do you want? Strawberry, vanilla, or butter pecan in America? That's the option they give us. I say this. I tell you what, I live here. You know what affects Americans? I'm going to tell you right now, first and foremost, what will drive Americans to all kinds of madness: high gas prices. That in the event of the war spreads regionally, let's say you're right, within the next week, you know what's going to happen? The price of oil will go through the roof. That is when there will be changes. Trust me. If that happens, let's say a regional war doesn't spread to Iran, but if there's a regional war, there's a heavy engagement with Yemen, etc. That is going to drive the prices of gas up 20-25% minimum. And so now you've got people paying $3 and $4 a gallon who are going to be paying, $6-7 a gallon. At that point, Americans will go berserk. They will be infuriated at their rulers, and they will basically say, you better do something, and we mean now. So Americans, see, what happens is America, as they've said, America is a country with insignificant powers to the north and south and fish to the east and west, right? America is so far from everything that what the ruling elite has been able to do is be involved in all of these military misadventures around the world, but ensure that the American people don't feel the pain of it, because they know the American people don't like pain. They're pampered. They're pampered. They don't like pain. They don't like economic pain, nothing. And I predict that when and if a more severe, significant military outbreak happens in the Middle East, that will dramatically affect prices. There won't be, as you're saying, 4 or 5 months getting into things will go to pieces right here. The people will, the polls will go through the roof. The politicians' phones won't work anymore because people will be in the streets. When the gas prices get that high, that's the one thing in America. They're pampered and they can't stand that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, it is very possible that obviously Netanyahu, for instance, wants to have this election between Trump and Biden and get Trump to win. This is his hope. But as you said, with collapse of economy, prices of oil and gas going up in the next 4 months if this war breaks out on a regional scale, you know what? It could be a drive to either rebellion in the streets in these countries that we haven't seen yet. Well, we already saw on January 6th, how the society in the US is already on the brink of internal fighting. So now bring it to a situation where the vast majority of the population doesn't like either option. They are being beaten in the streets on a daily basis in these demonstrations, hundreds of demonstrators. Imagine if there's a wider scale war, how much more demonstrations will be, how much more confrontations between the police and the authorities are. And the fact that the media is belittling the emotions of American citizens, Canadian citizens, British citizens, European citizens, how this disconnect between the elite and the fact that there's no outlet at all for the emotions of the populace, it is a very dangerous situation. So it is possible that there will be no election if we have full riots in the streets. If the United States is at war with multiple countries in the region.
One other thing. You got to add one other thing, too, that is significant. The ruling elite, for whatever reason, have decided that Donald Trump is an existential threat to them for a number of reasons that I could easily articulate, right? They are right now, he doesn't go along with everything they want. Yeah, he goes along with some of the things they want, doesn't go along with everything they want. He's not in tune 100% with the empire, and they can't stand that. Okay. So they're using all kinds of lawfare to try to get Donald Trump out. If they are successful and they throw Donald Trump off the ballot, see, there's There's instability in foreign policy in the US. That's obvious. It's madness, right? The foreign policy is totally unstable, totally unstable. I suggest that internally the instability is boiling, and that internally, in the same way that our ruling elite are so over the top, they're so stupid, they're so arrogant, that they're infuriating their populace, and that the ruling elite are going to have to deal with some kind of, I'm going to use this term war, but I don't mean it in a traditional civil war sense. But they're going to, if they're able to get Donald Trump, throw him off the ballot, half the people in the country wanted to vote for the guy. I don't, not if Trump, we know who Trump is, obviously. Certainly Trump and Biden, and they're clearly pro-Zionist, and they're, part of the ruling elite. I'll put it like this. I always like to put it this way. There are warring factions in the ruling elite, but they're still the ruling elite, but they have their warring factions. If they're able to throw him off the ballot, which they're trying to do, all hell will break loose. There will be violence, but not amongst the people fighting or shooting at each other, against the people, between the people who are the pro-Trump people and the government, who they feel, rightfully so, to be quite frank, have betrayed them. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's clear to me that Trump has support in the populace, whether I like him or not, whether I like his politics or not. You can't deny people their right to representation, and the media, liberal and right wing, are the ones that created Trump as a personality. He was like a media personality they created, and then they put for the populace as an option, and lo and behold, a huge part of the population supported him. So I may not like him. I don't like Biden either. I don't like Democratic Party. I don't like the Republican Party. But that doesn't mean that I have the right to deny the people the choice to vote for that. Obviously, the crisis within the elite in the West and the senility of the empire itself is creating these narrow options that we have: two senile leaders, Biden and Trump, and or fake politicians like Sunak in the UK, or Trudeau and Poilievre, his opposition. These are all like manufactured things that also nobody's happy about. I'm telling you, even people that support Trump are probably not happy with him, but they see him as, they see him as a better choice according to them than Biden. But I am sure that those who follow Trump are not happy with the way he looks or he speaks ultimately. But so the senility of the empire is leaving no options but these. They cannot produce any other options, and this is going to accelerate the collapse of empire.
I think you're right. I think that in the same way, people try to guess what's going to take the empire out. So they saw the Ukraine conflict, and they said that's going to be it. Remember Afghanistan? That's going to be the end of the empire. Ukraine, oh boy, that's it. That's it for the empire. They're going to screw up now. Little did people realize the Middle East, that the Zionist colony, was in fact the leading edge of the empire. That's going down. And people are also talking about Taiwan. I argue it'll be internal. That the collapse from the entire empire will be internal. One of the big things is this: look at the numbers of people who are aghast at what is happening in America. Look at the percentage of people. 70 to 80% of the Democratic Party want to end the conflict, ceasefire now and for good, for all. That the ultimate big threat, and I think the ruling elite know that. I think they know it too. The true threat are the people of the U.S. I think one thing that Israel needs to understand: The U.S. empire was able to put this propaganda about how wonderful Ukraine is. They're the good guys. We got to support them, blah, blah, blah. Over time, the truth got out. Over time, Americans got weary. And in America, basically, it's this now. Why the hell are we sending these people money when we got problems of our own? You know, we got homeless people. We got all these problems. And you're saying send all this money to Ukraine. That's coming for Israel. The United States people are going to get tired, and they're going to say, we need to send another X amount of billion to Israel. And people are asking those questions now. And it's going to be, we can't send, we're sick and tired of sending all that. They're going to get the same thing. As the internal deterioration expands, and people start to say, why don't I have food here and things here? But yet you're giving stuff to these people over there. That's only due to expand. Anyway, I got to get ready to go, but you get the last comment.
You know, I like what you said. You know, of course, the empire is going to collapse internally, but Palestine and the region around it have always been the death of empires. Any empire that came in from the outside of the region that occupied that land was brought down because of attempting to hold on to that land. It is the hardest piece of territory to hold on to, even if you were young and played Risk. You know, that piece of land, you must spend half of your military to occupy it and hold it. And without it, you can't be a full empire. But with it, you are dooming yourself to end. And this is where, you know, Palestine is the death of empires. The Mongols, the Romans, the Persians, the Greeks, the British, and what have you. So definitely Palestine right now is the trigger for the end of Western hegemony, and I hope we all can survive the next few months, and that Palestine will be liberated with the least blood. But you know, looking at what the crazies, the Neros that are in the West and in the Zionist colony, maybe that's hoping for too much.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You know, there was a time when I viewed the U.S. as a very stable place to live, and I never thought that I would be concerned about this country falling into, you know, disarray. And now I look at it and I'm like, things ain't looking good for the future. That I could see this country falling into complete instability as a result, I mean, of just completely preposterous, ludicrous leadership at this rate. All right, well, thanks a lot. I got to get ready to run. We both got to go. Laith, what's the website where everybody can go, where they can support you, they can support your work, and they can help with the great work that's going on in your region?
Please visit freepalestine.video. We're trying to train youth here to produce content in English, so you can all know more about what's happening here. Freepalestine.video. Donate. Thank you very much.
Freepalestine.video. Thank you very much. All right, Lathan, I'll look forward to having you back next week. Everyone, thank you very much, and we're out.